Ask Reddit. Hey Reddit, have you ever ruined a party? Post your stories. In college I was at a bar with a friend. This place had a drink special wheel on the wall they would spin every so often. Most of the spots on the wheel were for things like dollar shots, 50-cent drafts, etc. The place was packed and none of our friends were there, so we decided to leave. Before leaving we went in the bathroom to take a piss. They spun the wheel when we were in there and we heard the whole place cheer. Being pretty much drunk we didn't think anything of it and strolled out of the bar 30 seconds later. The whole place started booing and yelling at us. Apparently the wheel had landed on the one little spot that said, "Free drinks until someone leaves the bar." I used to work at a bar, and we had beer busts, which means starting at 9 PM you get free keg beer till someone pisses. We had guards at the bathroom doors to see when someone took a piss. To avoid being the douche that stopped the free drinks, people would actually piss in the corners and under the tables in the booths. Hahaha, this is such a terrible idea for a bar to implement. Some friends were having a party for a guy I only partly knew. They were celebrating life because he had just been released from the hospital after being badly burned in a rigged fire where 2 of his friends had died. He was wearing white gloves on his hands because he had no skin due to the fire. I walk in and say, "Who ducking invited Michael Jackson? Those gloves make you look like a fag." I didn't know about the fire. Oh, this is another one that I did do. Several of my friends had an annual Christmas party. This was the first year I was invited, maybe with good reason. Now, my experience with Christmas and parties thereof is slim at best, since my family don't truck that way. Anyways, they announced several weeks in advance that there will be a secret Santa swap, and everyone who wants to get involved should let one individual, we'll call him T, know. Since I couldn't give a rat's ass about Christmas, and this particular game in particular, I decided not to participate. Well, the next thing I know, I get a message saying that I'm supposed to get a gift for T-Duck that, so I put it off. Well, my friend, John, from the other story, actually, and I are driving down to this party, and he asks me what I got. Well, naturally, I had decided to go along with my original plan of getting nothing for no one, but he says this is bad juju, and I have to get something. Duck me. Fine. The last store on the way is a Walgreens pharmacy. We stop in, and I look around. John reminds me that T and his wife have just gotten pregnant. Fine. So I buy a coat hanger and a box of condoms, and wrap them up. We get to the party. Everything is awesome for a few hours, because this is a drinking crowd. Then we get to the gift swap / secret Santa part. Everything is awesome and funny, until T opens my gift. Turns out that he and the wife have had a few miscarriages before, and it wasn't sure if the baby would make it to term. We haven't had a Christmas party in 6 years. TL. Doctor, my friends have a beautiful little girl. Not me personally, but epic. Microsoft, 2001. Bill Gates' house for the annual party. It's crazy. Beer, carnival rides, etc. My buddy, a non-manuscript employee, goes to the party, gets really drunk, goes wild on the spinning cups, and then poops in his pants. Not a shot, a shit. Good times. TL. Doctor, buddy pooped in his pants at Bill Gates' house. I once threw a party in high school, and it didn't end too well. First, someone smashed a beer bottle on my friend's head because he didn't want to fight. Then 3 girls from the rowing team, heavyweight, decided to sit on my mom's dining room table, ultimately snapping it in half. Then the cops came because some dude parked his car on my neighbor's lawn. After yelling through the house several times asking whose car it was, and nobody claiming it, 10 guys picked it up and moved it themselves. Hours later another neighbor was yelling up and down the street demanding where the duck his car went. Oops. This is my tequila story. I was in high school, of course, and had never gotten drunk, obviously. My friend was having a kickback for our friend group, and because we were in high school, it was going to be in his room, with his parents present, which was okay, because they were totally chill. I was kind of into this girl with whom I had awkward high school nodes **XUAL tension all year. Read, very little sexual tension, and decided that I was going to get trashed and hook up with her that night. Because, you know, that's what happens when you get trashed in your friend's room while their parents are asleep, right? So, I get there and reveal that I want to get totally wasted. My friends are super excited at that prospect and immediately force 3 shots of tequila on me, which they tell me I handled like a champ. I would corroborate, but the last thing I remember with any clarity is arriving. According to my friends, the following events ensued. I drank most of the remaining fifth of tequila. I stumbled around the room, drunkenly proclaiming that it was the best night of my life. Sat on the host's bed, talking with the girl I was into, which was totally part of my master plan, except for the fact that I vomited into her lap. Vomited all over the bathroom for an hour, with basically everyone at the party taking care of me / freaking out that the parents were going to wake up and find out. Got stripped down all the way by my friends, who laundered my clothes in order to remove the vomit and threw me into the shower for the same reason. Was seen naked by every female in the friend group after a cold shower. Yeah, ouch. Woke up in the hallway hours later, in my boxers, in a pool of my own vomit. Loudly started asking what the fuck was going on between my continued vomiting. Roused the parents from their slumber, who, at least at 1 AM with a bunch of unexpected, drunken guests, turned out to be less chill than advertised. Got everyone immediately kicked out of the house by bleary-eyed irate parents. So, yeah, I'd say I ruined the party. Edit, TL. Doctor, I blacked out on tequila, vomited all over, everyone saw me naked, woke up my friend's parents, and got everyone kicked out. I've ruined many parties with drunken idiocy, but I think a better story is the first time I ruined Christmas. To answer the inevitable question, I have ruined more than one Christmas. I was 19 and was staying at my parents' house for Christmas. I lived 3 hours away from them, and most of my high school friends still lived in the town, so it was a good chance to catch up with everyone. I went out with my friends on Christmas Eve. I got absolutely sheet-faced, but had an awesome night. I took some girl home to my parents' place, which in and of itself is no problem, but we were loud. There were grandparents, aunts, uncles, little cousins, etc. all staying with us. The oldest of my cousins was 6, so they were luckily too young to really know what their D***CKHEAD cousin was doing. All of them heard us get home at like 5 AM, knock the Christmas tree over, fumble our way around the kitchen to get some more booze before bed, all sorts of ridiculous shit. They also heard us ducking, which was sort of a badge of honor as far as my uncles and father were concerned, but it made me the devil as far as one of my aunts was concerned. My mother and grandparents were reasonably cool with it, funnily enough. Anyway, we get out of bed at something like 9:30 AM, start doing the awkward introductions. I forget the girl's name. More awkwardness ensues. I'm still stupidly drunk, so really don't care. I politely decline breakfast, and soon it gets to the point in the morning where everyone sits around the tree and the little kids open their presents. Just before this happens, someone asks me when this girl is going home. I, without realizing, very loudly reply I don't know when she is going home. I don't even know this girl. She hears, but is actually surprisingly cool about it. In hindsight, she probably had no other choice given that she had no way of getting home. My parents' house was probably 20 kilometers from the nearest town, so she was reliant on my sobering up to drive her. Understandably, there was no way any of my family was taking time out of their day to drive her. She was aware of all of this before agreeing to come home with me, and knew she wouldn't be getting home until dinner time at the earliest. So anyway, we are sitting around, and the kids are opening their presents. My 6-year-old cousin brings me one of my presents. As I'm opening it, I feel that twist in my stomach. Oh shit. I projectile vomit right in front of everyone, right next to the Christmas tree. The reactions were predictable: horror, shock, disdain, etc. This is the final straw. My grandparents, who to this point were pretty cool about it all on the basis that it was really pretty harmless, if inappropriate, motion for me to step outside. They come out with me, and my aunt follows. I'm still drunk, but I'm well aware of the situation now. My aunt bursts into tears and is sobbing and screaming, "Do you know what you've done? You've ruined Christmas for everyone." That auntie and I are only separated by about 10 years and we have never got along, but at that point I started to feel pretty bad. I called a cab to take the girl home, gave the cab driver $100 just to make sure she got home, and sat quietly for the rest of that day. Luckily most of my family is pretty cool and was laughing about it by that evening. In subsequent years me being a drunken duckwit and acting inappropriately became a tradition of sorts, but it was never as bad as that particular year. A while ago I had a party at my house. My friends and I all got very drunk, and at one point in the night I refused to let my friend have the ingredients to bake a cake at 1 o'clock in the morning, mainly because I didn't want to deal with the mess. Anyway, so he gets pissed about this and decides to take my car keys and go for a joyride in my car. Not only was he extremely drunk, but he was also 16 years old, not old enough to drive in the UK, and had no license. I didn't even know about this until I got a phone call about 30 minutes later in which he slurringly told me of how he drove 100 meters to a junction to do a handbrake turn, and the police happened to be there to see it. Fortunately they couldn't turn round fast enough to follow him, but he had to spend the next 20 minutes driving away on tight country roads. He had parked about 5 miles away and walked back. That was a stressful evening, but I still count myself lucky he didn't crash or get apprehended by the police. TL. Doctor, my drunk underage friend took my car for a joyride and encountered the police because I didn't let him bake a cake. I brought a bottle of Ever. Good times were had until someone fell off the roof. Then my girlfriend gave me all the money she had to go and get her some more booze and I came back with walkie-talkies. Drunken argument. We are out here. Where the duck is my Ever? Why I mean you broke it, buddy. I'll kill you. Q fight scene. Where's my GF? Why I mean she left in the taxi? Duck you. I'm going to sleep in the dog's kennel. Duck you dog. Leave me alone. Quiet sobbing from the kennel all night. Sigh. Wish I was still a teenager. All these comments are just stories of everyone getting way too drunk. Hasn't anyone ruined a party just because they are an idiot? I very rudely beat all of my younger relatives at bumper pool at a big get together. I got caught up in the game and didn't realize I was ruining the fun for everyone. I was just in the zone, so to speak, nailing all the shots and didn't think about what I was doing. I wasn't a very good host that day. There's something hilarious about outskilling children. Welcome to the real world, kids. Corner pocket. My brother went along with a friend to a party. The friend had been invited and thought the party was semi-open, so asked my brother to join him. Well, the host didn't like it and told my brother to get out, which is certainly his right, though he was kind of a *ck about it. My brother left and his friend left too. After a while they decided to have some fun. They burst through the front door shouting wildly, "Oh my god, the cops are here. They're coming in. Run everybody." They did this all the way through the house, waving to the host in the kitchen as they ran by and out the back door. This was a high school party, underage drinking and weed everywhere. The panic was instantaneous and contagious. People started running along with them, or opening windows and climbing out, leaving by any means possible. They heard later that the party was effectively ended right at that moment. Few people had the nerve to come back, even though there were no cop cars around. Some had thought they'd heard the cops are on their way, so they didn't want to risk being there. My brother is normally a pretty cool guy, and he admitted that what he did was a completely a churlish thing to do. But he laughed about it anyway. At a dinner party, I drank a bottle of wine way too quickly. I ate nothing the whole day and puked purple into the soup. When someone said, "John," on the floor, I responded with, "No." I continued to throw up in the soup. This was in front of my host's entire family, wife, 3 small children, one of his best friends, wife, 4 small children. Is this a reference I'm not getting? Or was the soup still salvageable when they asked you to vomit on the floor? My third time ever getting drunk was last October of senior year at my best friend's 18th birthday party. The night started off well enough. We went to a haunted house first, then we all went to a friend's house to party. This girl had celiac, so she couldn't drink any beer at all. So naturally, like a bunch of dumb high schoolers, all we had to drink was half a bottle of Bacardi, of which I had maybe a quarter. I'm still not sure to this day. A couple bottles of tequila, Malibu, and a bottle of some disgusting banana flavored shit. But I digress. When I first started losing it, it was pleasant enough. Me and a friend of mine a couple at Elvis Crespo Suavement, and by the time we finished, the shots of Jos Cuervo and Bacardi were catching up to me. And according to my sober friends, I had forgotten how to speak English, meaning that when someone asked me something, I replied in angry Spanish, and then I became violent. By the end of the night, I punched the wind out of my former singing partner, shoved a girl, threw rocks at least 3 people, punched another kid in the thigh, cut someone's hand, and bit a guy in the scalp, then threw up all over the place, apologized profusely to everyone I saw in Spanish, whether they understood me or not, and then decided that I didn't deserve to sleep inside, so I grabbed a tablecloth while it was still on the table, knocking some cups over, but no bottles, thankfully, and used the tablecloth as an impromptu sleeping bag and passes out in his backyard, while throwing up a couple more times. My friends don't let me drink at parties anymore. I have some pretty good friends, but one time at their party I was so drunk on the couch that the next day I wondered if I had unknowingly chatterbaited in front of them. I had to ask them. They cracked up. The answer was thankfully a no, but were they just being kind? About a year after I dropped out of uni, one of the girls from my theater paper invited me to her 21st, which I was petrified to attend, so dragged a few sassy gay men and drank a couple of bottles of wine before arriving. When we got to the swanky private function room, everyone was really sober and dressed up a la Moulin Rouge. Needless to say, we had gotten wild with some fatter paint and looked like hobos. It was way too intense with all these little rich duckers spinning around asking obscenely personal questions. When speech time rolled around, I said fuck this and stumbled outside for a fag. Blah blah blah, Sophie is so special blah blah. Then her mum's up. To make a speech, I figure I should head inside so I don't look like a total ditch. But as I stand up, all the blood leaves my head and I fall onto a table full of half-empty wine glasses which smash everywhere, and I, being so drunk, think I can just pinkpon my way back into the room and no one will care. The room is silent. The family is staring. Later, one of the girls I actually like, but who is also about 5 inches shorter than me, leaps into my arms, and I spin her around the dancer floor. Then she tries to do the same to me, and we both fall over the speakers onto the stage, where the band are playing. My friend has sprained her ankle. The room is silent. The mood is sour. The band stopped playing, and the family are staring. I pick her up and struggle through the crowd to the seats where the birthday girl's extremely hot dad is also sitting. He says, "You're very strong for such a wee thing," and outrageous flirting ensues. Photographer snaps picture of her dad feeling me up a bit. By this stage it is clearly time to go, so I find my emergency wine that I'd hidden in the bush earlier and make my way out. The birthday girl is sitting in her white satin corset on a bench. I bent down to kiss her goodnight, and the wine I had been clutching to my chest with the lid off sloshes out of the bottle and right down her ample cleavage. Ruined. I brought my new puppy to a paranoid guy's party in high school. You know, those guys who try to keep everyone quiet every 5 minutes. Anyways, my puppy pooped in the refrigerator and ate a whole wheel of cheese. Such a good boy. Went to a party where the host's girlfriend had a bunch of hippie friends over. At one point during the night, a drum circle broke out, which in any situation is ducking awful. Being the good Samaritan that I am, I went into the bathroom and called the host, pretending to be an enraged neighbor named Mark Davis. I told the host that if the drumming didn't stop, I was going to call the police. It worked. So yeah, even though I ruined the party for the smelly hippies, I saved it for everyone else. Hero. I was in college. I ruined many a party. Narc. A few years back in college, we had an off-campus party. A few closer friends, beer pong, music, nothing too wild or anything. So a friend of a girl I liked at the time was there, and she was dating a guy who had terminal brain cancer. In my semi-drunk state, and in front of most of the guests, instead of asking how, Has he been doing or something along those lines? I instead asked, is he dead yet? I swear I had no ill will, it just came out completely wrong. She cried, left, and that was the party. It took me a long time to befriend her again. I hope she sincerely forgave me. I didn't mean to be a complete asshole. In 10th grade, the girl and friend who has been the focus of my attention, Reed, I'm obsessed, for the past few months decides to throw a party given that her parents are out of town. In typical high school fashion, every Tom, Dick, and Harry shows up, eager to both get wasted and lay waste. Before I continue, allow me to briefly describe this house. It is located in the ritziest area of Paris, has 5 stories with a glass elevator shaft running through the center, and has the decor of a 19th century palace. My friend's navy was quite astounding in retrospect. So I show up with a handle of vodka and my best friend in tow, excited as all duck. Feeling particularly adventurous that night, we plan to divide the vodka between us and race to finish it. We proceed to do so, meandering throughout the house, engaging in various drinking games and leaving broken vases and overturned statuettes in our wake. Most everyone else at the party is doing the same. I'm down to the final swig of my share of the vodka, and at this critical moment I'm wrenched from my drunken stupor by my twisting stomach. Not having vomited due to drinking before, I was startled by this new and horrific feeling. Sensing the puke rise, I raced the duck upstairs to the nearest bathroom, the door to the glass elevator having been shattered earlier. I found my best friend unloading streams of vomit into the toilet bowl as I swaggered in. Looking into his cockeyed pupils, we shared a tender moment, interrupted by my projectile puke that coated the floor. He got out pretty quickly, and I continued to place layer upon layer of throw up, reeling back with the force of it, until I finally hit the bowl. My dear hostess chose this moment to come into the bathroom, and was assaulted by the spectacle. After regaining her composure, she screamed at me to clean it up and left. Being properly sheet-faced, I figured it was a terrific idea to turn on the shower and spray the floor with a few inches of water. Returning to check on me, the hostess burst into tears. I pushed her aside and entered the adjoining room and collapsed, messiah-like, on a twister mat. The next day I rose to an aching body, which was confusing considering I was sure I had passed out. Since I had passed out so early, no one else had woken up yet. I peeked into the bathroom, found it clean. If anything, I feel the most like an asshole that someone else had to do it, and surveyed the rest of the house for damage. I cleaned up what I could, lifting passed out limbs to sweep under them, my back feeling like absolute shit and my face pounding. I decided to head back home to recover. When I returned, I found my entire body covered in sharp edicts. Thankfully my parents weren't up quite yet, and most perplexing, a big black eye. Totally confused, I just hung around the house the rest of the day. My parents found the black eye hilarious. That afternoon, I went on Facebook to find that I had been tagged in a number of photos. I discovered a number of pictures of me passed out with the hostess jumping on top of me and throwing punches at my unconscious body. Nice. TL. Doctor, threw up at a friend's party, got beat up while passed out.